Tukia te uringa. Tukia te moinga. Ko marama heke te pō te koi ia. He whakarahia. Hira mai te hihira. Ara mai te ara. He manu whakarongo. Tupu a koa te manu nei. Pā te tōre auta. Ko whete mai. Angutu. Ko tū ki taha maui. Ko rongo ki taha mātau. Tuturu whakamawa ki a tīna. Tīna. Omi e ui e. Tai ki e. A korori ki te atua runga rawa he mangarongo ki runga te matua te whenua whakaaro pai ki ngā tangata katoa. A tihai Māori tū. A tihai Māori ora. A tihai Māori ora. Ki ngā mate kua haere atu haere. Haere ki Huai ki Nu, Huai ki Ro, Huai ki Pāma Mao. Ki ngā hunga ora, ngā haue whā, ngā iwi e waru I konei. Kei te mihi. Ngā haue whā kua taimai ki tēnei ki te tautoko tēnei hui. Tēnei hui o te ora, me te mate, nau mai hara mai. Ki a koutou ngā rangatira, nau mai hara mai. Tēnā koutou. Ko Alex Brown tōku ingoa, ko au te kai kōrero o tēnei rā. I'm going to speak English now. I just did a whai kōrero, which is a brief karakia, a blessing to the day, which talks about the start of the world, the beginning of the time, the creation of man, and the creation of man comes conflict. And with that, we all come together eventually. And then I welcomed the dead to depart because they need to, and then for us to come together to welcome you all people from all around the world and all around Nelson to this lovely place. And then I've welcomed our guests here today who are going to talk on a very important topic, the shared goals of care. And I welcome you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex, for that warm welcome. My name's Kirsten Capel, and I'm the Regional Associate Dean here in Nelson, but associated with the University of Christchurch campus. And my role is to oversee the training of final year medical students, but also involved with these community health lectures. Now, the focus of today in this lunchtime session is to talk about things we need to consider when our health changes. Now, this can happen at unexpected times, as happened to me 3 weeks ago. I was struck for the first time with COVID. All these changes may happen more gradually or as we age and the parts of our body don't function as well. So we have a series of 3 speakers today who are going to talk about having the appropriate conversations at the appropriate time to enhance our quality of life. And our first speaker today is Dr. Kate Grundy. And Kate is the Clinical Director of the Canterbury Integrated Palliative Care Service. Thank you, Kate.
Tēnā koutou katoa. What a lovely opportunity it is to be back in Nelson, come up from Christchurch this morning. And thanks, Tammy, for the invitation to speak, and welcome to all our participants on Zoom. So it's great to be here. Okay, so the title that we were given for today is What Matters Most When Our Health Changes? And of course, that's a deeply personal thing. And I'm going to frame it around advanced care planning. Some of you may have heard of it, some of you may have not, and hopefully by the time you leave here, you'll be greatly enlightened about what advanced care planning is and how it might be useful for you and for the people that you care about. So who am I? I'm the clinical lead for palliative care service in Christchurch Hospital. So I've led that service for 22 years or so. I do lots of teaching, mentoring, and kind of guiding people, but also the system towards to become a place that accepts dying as part of healthcare. And I've been involved with our advanced care planning since it began in New Zealand, which is about 13 or so years ago. And in fact, I looked up, the first lecture I gave was 2007 in the West Coast. And that was before that was because it was happening internationally, and it really resonated with the work and the practice that I had at that time. And I know firsthand how better planning creates better outcomes for my patients and for their families. Language is really important, and I see this all the time, but you will know it in your own lives. These are two different people looking at the same thing and seeing something completely different. We talk in hospital often that when, as doctors and health professionals, we say your loved one is very unwell. Now, that may mean that they've got COVID and they're going to be fine in 3 weeks' time, or it might mean they're sick enough to die. And sometimes we're not clear enough with people about what exactly is going on. Palliative care is a word that strikes fear into a lot of people, but for many people, it actually engenders a sense of comfort and support, which is actually what palliative care is. Palliative care works alongside all the other providers of health. So to me, is a deeply positive thing, but that's not always how it sounds. And we've got a lot of negative connotations built around that because of the fact that people believe that maybe they're very close to death. Advanced care planning is similarly understood in different ways by different people, and some people see it again as being a very empowering process. Some people think that it's too hard, or it's not for them, or it's a waste of time. So language is extremely important. So just kind of pondering, I think you'll all be sitting here, you've all come along today for your own personal reasons. And when people are sick, they bring their own experiences, their own history, the things that have happened to them, the things that have happened to the people around them, the things that they understand, they bring to that healthcare journey, that interaction, that event, that process. And we all have our strengths and our weaknesses, the things that we can override and the things that we know are going to challenge us. And we all need to maintain a sense of hope. That might be hope to be cured of the problem, but it may be a very different hope. And we shouldn't see hope as simply about living longer or being cured. I mean, ultimately, we all know that we're going to die. So we need to think about hope in a broader way. So that all goes for you as maybe current or future patients, but it also goes for us as clinicians. We bring our own experiences. We bring our own strengths and our weaknesses. Some people are really good at having conversations about tough stuff, about death and dying. Some people are not. And the onus is on us as clinicians to recognize those deficiencies in our practice and get better at them. And hopefully by the time we finish today, you'll learn about some programs which are there to try and help health professionals notice their weaknesses, build on their strengths and maximize their strengths, but also how we can create a sense of hope for our patients, even when we can't make them better. So, what is advanced care planning? Essentially, it's a process of discussion and shared planning for future healthcare. It involves a person, their family or whanau, and ideally healthcare professionals, particularly if they have some kind of illness. And essentially, it's about developing and expressing preferences for care at the end of life based on a better understanding of current health and what lies ahead, any treatments and care that might be available. But ultimately, it's about basing those on our views and values that are deeply personal to us as individuals. It does rely on us accepting that we're going to die. And I think that's one of the reasons why it is not as universally picked up as I believe it should be, which is kind of weird, but anyway. So what issues are up for discussion? The person's understanding of their illness, and any mismatches in that understanding. And we know that that's can be a really problematic situation when we think the patient knows X, Y, and Z, but the patient has a different view. So advanced care planning can sometimes make visible those mismatches. And prognosis is extremely hard to be sure about. We can be pretty good at it when prognosis is extremely short, hours or short days, but we're not very good at it when it's much further ahead than that. But having an understanding of what the person's likely prognosis is important. Any personal preferences that we've spoken about, any particular concerns, fears, goals, beliefs, the need for cultural, religious, or spiritual support, which is so incredibly important for all of us, and our preferred place of care. And bearing in mind that this may affect treatment options available. Saying that you want to die at home, but wanting CPR, which will automatically require you to go to intensive care, almost certainly, is a kind of mismatch. So that's one of the reasons why it's important to have these conversations with somebody who can kind of understand that in order to get the kind of death that you would like, there are certain things that are kind of almost mutually exclusive, as it were. So some of you will have picked up an advanced care planning booklet as you came in. There are plenty. So if you feel empowered, take one, take many. If you think you're going to give it to the people that you that are important to you, don't just take one. And there's also another booklet which you can look at. I don't think we've got any copies of this, but you can have a look at it on the Health Quality Safety Commission website, and it's called Whanau Tika Whenua. And it's been designed to help people think and talk through their advanced care plans, encouraging people to look at what's important to them, their values, beliefs, consider practical decisions when they become unwell and they can't speak for themselves. It also provides some kind of examples of other people's approaches to ACP. So it's a supporting document, and it's just beautiful. It is really, really lovely. There is, if you look at your advanced care planning booklets, there you'll see that it's two-tone. The white bit is the fill outy bit, and the shady bit is actually the explanatory note. So it looks more complicated than it actually is. So don't be put off by all the writing on the left-hand side. Okay, and essentially, to me, advanced care planning is more about living than it is about dying. So it's an important hurdle to get over, to actually look at how, when you start thinking about your life and the things that are important to you, it actually enriches the moment and the time that you have right now. And you definitely don't need to be sick to have an advanced care plan. I have one. Tammy, do you have one? Yeah, Tammy has one. So we're pretty fit and at the moment, and we both have advanced care plans. At its most simple, it's actually just a conversation. So advanced care planning is an umbrella term for right through from the conversations that we have with friends and family, right the way through to completing a fully fledged advanced care plan booklet containing an advanced directive within it. So right across that spectrum. Yes, it's just a conversation, but it's hard to find and trust and bring out that conversation when it's really when it really matters. So having it written down in a plan is actually better all round if possible. And it isn't for everybody. So we know that. It's never going to be compulsory. It's always going to be something that we offer and we support, but we don't make everybody have one. So this is another way of showing it. Advanced care planning, the conversations, it's kind of the big egg, is all the conversations we have about the things that are important to us, what we would want if things don't go right, and we get sick. We know that a lot of those conversations are shut down by family members. You know, if somebody says, oh, you know, you know how Bob down the road, he went and died last week, you know, it made me think that, oh no, Mum, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. There's a lot of shutting down of conversations that happens within society. So this is not just a medical issue, it's absolutely a societal issue. And then within that is the concept of advanced care planning, which is the process, the discussion, the writing down the things that are important. And within that, there may be an advanced directive component, which I'll come to in a moment. Standalone advanced directives that aren't kind of cushioned within the advanced care planning process and the conversations are used to be the only way that we really had to do it. And they're called advanced living wills, sometimes people call them, and they all look different. They often contradict themselves. They're often supported by lawyers who don't have not good lawyers like we have here, but lawyers who don't necessarily have good understanding of the medical decision making. So they often are problematic and cause more problems than they solve. Advanced directive essentially is the consent or refusal to specific treatments offered in the future when the person doesn't have capacity. That's the definition. But without the ACP bit, the context is missing, the U is missing, and that makes it harder for us to check for validity. We need to know the why behind the what. So you can tell us the things that you do and you don't want, but we want to know a bit more about you, so that if you can't speak for yourself, then we can have confidence in the decisions that we are supporting. This is a lovely quote from actually a nephrology textbook. That's a kidney care textbook. Advanced care planning is a message to the future. It is a process of discussion and planning by a competent person addressed to their future clinicians, expressing their wishes and values in the event of becoming incompetent. Necessarily, it is highly personal. It holds the weight of law, which you'll hear about in a moment, and is enforceable, except where it requests an illegal or medically unreasonable act, which is the kind of the qualifying statement. So you can't ask for a whole bunch of things that just can't be given. Okay. The absence of ACP is silence. Final words are around assisted dying and advanced care planning, because there's a few myths around there. I believe that the legislation has changed the ACP landscape. Quite a lot of people have been empowered to do it, maybe write one-page advanced directives, which are really quite problematic, I think, without that ACP bit. Some people think it's one and the same thing, so get put off advanced care planning, and it's absolutely not. Some people are told that they can't do an ACP if they want assisted dying, which is complete rubbish. I think if it's something that you feel strongly about for yourself, then absolutely write it in your advanced care plan as a preference, just like anything else. I think it's good that we're thinking and talking more, and hopefully we can plan more as a consequence of the assisted dying legislation. Where can you get your support? You can hop onto the website, pick up a booklet, talk to your GP or your practice nurse. A financial subsidy may be possible. Don't take no for an answer. We hear about this a lot, that people say, oh, I'd like to do an oh, no, you're fine. We won't need that for ages. You say, no, I want to do it now. Now, you can do most of it, like 95% of it, before you even go to the general practice. You can come up with some questions and things that you want to ask, and you don't need to see the doctor. You can absolutely see the nurse. And we also have an ACP facilitator in the region called Marianne. Your specialist team in the hospital might start the process. They might sow the seed, they might tell you about it, so ask them about it, and then take that at your own convenience to your general practice. To be brave. I should have asked, does anybody in the room have an advanced care plan? Please don't say all say yes. Now I've given you quite a few of you. That's great, but there's plenty of you yet to do it. I'm just going to finish with this little quote. Talking about sex won't make you pregnant. Talking about death won't make you dead. So don't be so worried. So I'm going to hand over. We're going to take questions at the end. So I'm going to hand over now to Tammy.
So while Tammy's putting on her headset, Tammy's a cardiologist here in Nelson, and her other role is clinical lead for the Shared Goals of Care and Advanced Care Planning Working Group with the Health Quality and Safety Commission. Thanks, Tammy. Let me just check.
Can you hear me okay? Yes. Okay. All right. Kia ora koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. No inarangi o kutupuna I whanau mai aku tamariki I whakatu no reira ko tu a wharepapa te moana rūnei tāku nāku ko te taitapu te moana mahia nei aku maharahara ko Tammy tōku e noa. My name is Tammy Pegg. I'm a cardiologist at Nelson Marlborough. I herald from the United Kingdom, which is where I whakapapa to, but my children were born in Nelson, and I'm very much wedded to Te Ihu, the top of the South Island, which is going to be my place to stay for the remainder of my life. I'm here to talk about how we use advanced care planning in hospital. And through my work from the Health and Quality Safety Commission, I really was very interested to see, as part of the advanced care planning process, how people use that advanced care plan to make sort of advanced treatment decisions. So we've got all of the ACPs in the South Island are digitalised and are recorded electronically, and I was able to look at those sort of 5,000 plans and look at what people were selecting. And if you flick through to page 6 on the advanced care plan, the treatment preferences, you can select one of sort of 5 treatment options that you think you might want. And I was interested to see how well people made the plan compared to how people who decided that they were unwell. And I was really surprised to see that wellness actually didn't change a lot of the treatment decision making at all. So around about 50% of well and not well people still chose, in the event of serious illness, to only receive treatments that look after their care and dignity, not to prolong life, and not wanting resuscitation. And I find that quite interesting because I'm a cardiologist. I spend my whole life trying to extend life. But when that's not possible, my second goal is to promote access to treatment that's caregiving and dignified. So let's take a sidestep for the moment. Let's look at how we age and how we end up in hospital. And there's a model of aging and illness called the illness trajectory model. And what that is it's a graph that plots time against well-being. And when you cross the x-axis, you're dead. And there's a well-being threshold. And we all know and recognize that that well-being threshold changes with time. You know, when we're 20, well-being is around being able to ski or hike and climb mountains. But when we're in our later years, being pain-free is good enough. Do we all recognize that? Okay. And what we all hope is that we will be well right up until the day that we die. And that we term in healthcare as the silver bullet. And that's rare. Because what we do in health is we actually rescue you from those sudden tragic events, your cardiac arrest or your road traffic accident, and we pull you back from that brink. But each time we pull you into hospital, we will dip your well-being below or touching your threshold, and then we will restore you but we never quite get you back to where you were before your illness. And there'll be at some point in your life where we will restore you, but we won't restore you above your well-being threshold. And at that point, we have to consider whether treating you is in your best interests. Now, deciding where that threshold is really super complex because it's so individual for each person. So my husband and I, my husband's a cardiologist as well, and we've both completed advanced care plans, and ours are very different. My well-being threshold focuses very much on being able to move and maintain my own sort of personal hygiene. My husband's is very different, and he's happy if he's able to sit in the chair pain-free and watch the children. And to be honest, I suspect that's because he knows that I'll look after him, and I know he'll be in the garden. So each time you come into a hospital, we have to decide whether the care that we're going to provide is going to take you back above that well-being threshold, back to where giving you a quality of life that's in keeping with your goals and priorities. But it gets even more complicated than that. There's something called projection bias, which means it's very difficult to make a decision in a context that's different to the context you're expecting. So it's difficult to make a plan when you're well for when you're unwell. Who's been on a winter holiday? Who's been to Rarotonga this winter? Nobody. Well, I have, and I packed jumpers and trousers for my tropical island holiday, and I didn't take them out. That's the same thing. It's difficult to pack for summer when you're in a cold environment, and it's difficult to pack for winter when you're hot. That process happens in medicine as well, and the commonest example I can also give you is around childbirth. We've all put our hands up and said we all want a natural childbirth, but in the context of labour rules, trying to wrestle the anaesthetist to the ground to get the epidural in. And that, I remember the first time during my first labour, and then the second time, even given that advanced knowledge that I'd had the first labour, I made the same choice again. And I remember in my second painful labour thinking, why did I go for yoga and deep breathing? Give me the anaesthetic. So in New Zealand hospitals, when we think about how the complexity of these decisions can translate into hospitals, what we do is we complete a form called a Share Goals of Care form, and this is in Nelson and Whatu hospitals, and it's also standardised throughout New Zealand. And what we do when you come into a hospital with your illness is we try to decide your overall goal of care. And that can be extending through a range from A through to D, so curative, trying to completely cure you of your illness, so fixing a broken bone, through a restorative process, so maybe where we're understanding that we're trying to get you well and get you home, but we can't cure all of your conditions like diabetes or emphysema, or through C, where we're trying to support you to get better with treatments that are focused on making you feel better, or D, which is where we're supporting you through the dying process. And of course, as you go up the scale, the treatments become more intense and burdensome. And so you can appreciate the more intense the treatments, the bigger your dip in well-being, and the harder it's going to be for you to get back to where you want to be. So how do you make a decision then about, or how do we collectively make a decision about what goal of your care, whether you're curative, restorative, symptom-focused, or palliative? And to know a little bit about how we should make the decision, it's important to think about how we previously made decisions. So back in the 1950s and 60s, we had very much of a paternalistic model of medicine where the doctor would make the decision about what treatments you should have, really to the exclusion of yourself. That fortunately fell out of favour, and now we've kind of moved to what I loosely term a maternalistic model, where patients yourselves are offered an almost a la carte menu of options and asked what you want. And who here in the room has been given a whole list of treatments and sort of said, what would you like? It can be equally difficult to navigate that and equally hard. And what this model of medical decision-making assumes is that we only need information to make a good decision. Well, that's not true, because making a decision in the context of illness or serious illness needs also for us to take into account the emotional impacts, the psychological impacts in your family on those decisions. So what we're currently advocating at the Health and Quality Safety Commission is we evolve the model of medical decision-making away from this information only to more of a shared model. But what does that look like for you? I mean, that looks like we need to look at what's medically appropriate in your healthcare journey and combine that with what's important to you. What are your goals and values? What are your personal determinants of well-being? And we've got two ways of determining your personal determinants of well-being, and that's around advanced care planning. That's knowing about you. In hospital, there's also a tool that we're promoting called the Serious Illness Conversation Guide. And the Serious Illness Conversation Guide is a movement that started in the United States by this chap, Dr. Whatu Ora Nelson, who here has read his book, Being Mortal. It's a great book, isn't it? And this book basically takes us through the concepts around, I suppose, Dr. Grundy considered that the healthcare model as an information base only was not really meeting the needs of his father. So then he set upon a project to give us a checklist for a good conversation. And that's what the Health and Quality Safety Commission are pushing out nationally, to teach clinicians how to have a good conversation with you so we can understand a little bit more about what matters to you. The conversation's kind of broken up into 5 parts, but the most important part for you guys to take away with today is something called the Explore section. And the Explore section asks you questions about what are your priorities if your health gets worse? What worries you when you think about your health changing? What abilities are so important to you that you can't imagine living without them? If your health does get worse, how much are you prepared to go through for the possibility of more time? And how much does your family or whanau know about what's important to you? And you know what? This is the real beauty of this, is actually this guide was created in the US and the New Zealand Advanced Care Plan created in New Zealand. 2 different continents, created separately, a decade apart. But you can map the questions across. In the Advanced Care Plan, if my time were limited, my priorities would be. There's a whole page on what worries you. What helps you through tough times maps out to what matters to you. Where do you draw your strength from? What helps you? What assists you through the tough times? What abilities are so important to you that you can't imagine living without them maps to a section in what worries me. And what are you prepared to go through for more time? Well, I think that's where the advanced treatment preferences come in. And of course, both plans ask about how much involvement you want from your family or whanau. So previously, when you go into a hospital, I think we often kind of outline your treatment options, give you a map, tell you what's available, and ask you to go back and think about what you want to do. And that's really difficult to make that decision alone. So what I'd like to see healthcare practitioners doing in 2023 is to walk alongside of you on that journey and ask you some questions about maybe what are your priorities, what worries you, what are you prepared to go through for more time, what abilities are so important that you can't imagine living without them, and listening to your answers. And based upon those answers, based upon your personal determinants of well-being, making a treatment decision that will take you to that place. Thank you.
Thanks, Tammy. Our next speaker is going to give us a different perspective. Nick Lang is a lawyer. I always get muddled up between solicitors and barristers. And Nick works just across the road at Duncan Cottrell. And so...
It's great.
Sorry, just fiddling around with the headset here. So Nick just works across the road at Duncan Cottrell, and was certainly not going to be late for our meeting today. So thanks, Nick.
Thanks, Kirsten, and kia ora, folks. Ko aore ki te manga, ko waimakariri te awa, no o te tahi aho, ko Ngāti Pākehā te iwi, ko Duncan Cottrell te mahi, and ai anei anoho ana aho ki whakatū e te tauihu o te waka a Māui, ko Nick Lang toko ingoa. And that welcome introduction and to pick up from my most wonderful colleagues and helpers here for both you, Tammy and Kate. Well, look, I've got a short PowerPoint for you here, and I'm just going to advance through it. Here we are. So you've already heard where I'm from and what I do. And in particular, those are my qualifications. I've got a little bit of experience in this area, and I've picked that up advising health service providers and patients and clinicians, you name it, in some pretty complex situations. But what I wanted to focus on also was that I'm just like you, hiding under the legal umbrella. I'm a husband, a father, a son, also an uncle as well, and a friend. What I wanted to hopefully do today is explore just a few aspects with you with an upcoming law change, and also to talk through some of the research that we've undertaken with the Health Quality and Safety Commission, Te Tahu Ora, and then also to hopefully just leave you with a couple of practical thoughts about what you can do today, what you can do tomorrow and into the future to think about your healthcare now, and also for that time that will come for us all one day. So look, in terms of those three parts that I want to talk through with you, there's a body in New Zealand called the Law Commission, some incredibly smart and thoughtful people, largely based out of Wellington, that like to tinker around with our laws. They've announced a review. You'll be pleased to know that they're thinking about adult decision-making capacity. And that's something that will bring quite a significant change, is my expectation, and a move away from the paternalistic model that Tammy has been speaking about, and moving more to a supported decision-making model. And my thinking is that part of the advanced care planning conversations that I encourage all of you to have today and tomorrow and into the future is exactly what I've got there. We've got these advanced care plans that we've assessed, and we're thinking about, rather than saying to your son or your daughter or your brother or your uncle, hey, can you make that difficult decision for me? Thanks very much. Here's a document that empowers you to do that. But rather, it's finding that space in between about that why, that they're finding out about you. So I'm just going to explore a few of those with you. All right, well, let's move into that. Has anyone here heard of this acronym that I've put up there, the PPPR Act? Raise your hand high. Right, we've got a smattering, and we've got some other lawyers in the room who have raised their hands, so I'm pleased to see that as well. The Protection of Personal and Property Rights Act was from 1988, and that's about 35 years old. I'm just a slight little bit older than that act, but like me, approaching 40, it's a little bit creaking in parts, and it needs a bit of a review. So the Law Commission are looking into that. What it does, and what's, I think, if you were to take away one thing from today when you're thinking about the PPPR Act, is it moves your decision-making away to someone else. It appoints someone who can make a decision on your behalf. And in the medical context, that might be you've got a power of attorney. And I'm always interested, has anyone here got a power of attorney? And I can get my hand right up in the air. See, that is fantastic. I'm obviously saying that as a lawyer, that's a legal document, so please keep going. But also what I wanted to check was, and Tammy, you've done the survey just before, but can I repeat? I didn't quite see all the results. Advanced care plans, who's got one of those? See, that's a good number. I recently gave a presentation to about 400 of those in the professional finance arena, and you'll be amazed to know that one of those people put their hand up. So you're a long way on from them, which is fantastic. So look, let's move though, and let's find out, well, what are the Law Commission going to say about all of this? In terms of the Triple PR Act, they're looking at a few matters. They're looking at a few matters in particular to think about, which is this idea about, rather than substituted decision-making, supported decision-making. And that's the conversations that need to occur and to inform what you would like, the care that you would like today into the future and potentially at your death. So the Law Commission are looking very closely about that when people's decision-making is impaired or they lose capacity. Well, who's going to make a decision on their behalf? So what we're saying to you is it's really helpful if you can help us work through that process. So that's very much something that the Law Commission are looking at reviewing. And in terms of their scope, you'll see up there that I've got on this slide there highlighting the focus of the Law Commission. How's it going to facilitate? How's it going to regulate the provision of support to those people who require support? And to be able to exercise legal capacity on an equal basis. That's underpinned by international law. And they're also thinking about what safeguards might need to be in place. So these are good questions, in my view, that they're asking about this. But what it is pointing to, from my perspective, is that change from just simply moving the conversation away to your significant other, someone who you trust, but without giving them any context. And it's moving the dial a little bit to be able to help support the decision-making framework. So very much you can see in this next slide how I've illustrated that, is that's the move. Moving away from substituting a decision to a more supported decision. And surprise, surprise, there's the link. Advanced care planning. Now, we've heard some helpful guidance there and really practical insights from Kate, and also the discussion from Tammy. But highlighting there is that thinking and talking process. Now, I'm sure the last time that you've had a conversation around your dinner table, and it may be that you're more interested in this than the general public, but conversations about getting unwell, conversations about death and dying, typically are very private in New Zealand, and they're ones that you're reluctant to do. It's also that regular checkup that you might want to do to go along and see your GP and talk about yourself becoming unwell when you're well. It's one of those challenging things to motivate yourself to do sometimes. You only want to do it when you actually become unwell. But what advanced care planning heralds, I think, is being able to set out what your preferences are for that treatment, current and future. And it really helps shape you. So hopefully you're all converts to advanced care planning, but what I wanted to talk through briefly with you was the results of some of the research that Tammy had shared. And in terms of that research analysing almost 5,200 advanced care plans, which is a wonderful number to see, you'll see there up on the slide over this side I've got there, that's a good news story for me as a lawyer, that 72% have nominated a legal surrogate decision maker, and that's typically a power of attorney, or it might be someone who would also need a welfare guardian. Obviously, I'm interested in the other 28%, but there's also a significant number of really excellent findings here, which I'm just going to briefly walk through. In terms of the legal surrogate decision maker aspect, that is a really high number, and I don't see that the Law Commission is going to substitute or completely change a necessity to have someone assist when a decision needs to be made on your behalf. But I do see that there's a really excellent number that are showing that they've had a conversation, that they trust someone enough to be able to go ahead and make a treatment decision about them. What you might not be aware of, though, is there's some really important limitations on what your power of attorney might be able to do for you. And that's importantly, they're not able to refuse the administration of standard medical treatment that's intended effectively to save your life. And so just taking that one step further from a legal perspective, it's important to understand that it's up to the clinician as to whether or not they're going to treat you. It's not a position where you could force that treatment. So picking up on the point that Kate made before about an illegal or a medically unreasonable decision that you've directed, it's up to the clinician whether they're ultimately going to provide that. But it's really important, I think, and this is picking up on the next couple of slides about these preferences that you would want to indicate. So some really good numbers here as well. We are in these 5,200 advanced care plans. Almost 80% are indicated their preference about what they would like, including treatment and resuscitation preferences, where they get to a setting of serious illness. And so in terms of that serious illness conversation guide and also the shared goals of care form that might be filled out for you, I can unashamedly say that I'm sort of in that A category. It's the give me everything. I want all the time in the world, and I want that for my wife and for my children. So that's what my preference is for those. But some of those really excellent qualitative aspects that we've got in here, almost, or just over half rather, indicated what does suffering mean to you? And I don't know if that's a recent conversation that you've had with your significant other, but that's something that you can have a conversation about, that you can document that in your advanced care plan. And the other good thing is then these indications of what matters to people. So there's a couple of examples there highlighting one person who their family working together as a team is really important for them. They respect each other's needs and decisions. In terms of that's the slide here. So what I'm really encouraging you to take away from this, from a legal perspective, is that advanced care planning is a legally supported process. It's a process where you can have the most input to, giving your clinicians the information that they need to better understand you. So that's my key point to you, and it's this one that you'll see down here. We absolutely need more information, and more advanced care plans will be absolutely superb. What I would like to share on a personal note, as I worked through the passing of my late grandmother, Maureen, this year, and she had an advanced care plan, and it set out what mattered to her. And this is only a story that I'm able to share because I've experienced that final part of her journey. But what I wanted to convey to you was sitting there with her as she passed away, knowing that the advanced care plan informed a really, really authentic and genuine relationship with those clinicians, those wonderful people at Christchurch Hospital who treated her. And it also really helped the dynamic between my family and the staff, and knowing that what she was receiving was what she had wanted. And that's only one of many personal stories that I hear of working in this area, where helping understand her, we knew her in life, and we also were able to share the death that she wanted and the place that she wanted and with the treatments that she wanted. So in terms of advanced care planning, from my own experience and the experience that also the research indicates, is that it can be extremely comforting for the family, can be extremely comforting for the patient. And what it's also comforting to know is that minimizing, I think, and at the risk really of reducing the workflows to me, involving a lawyer in your death in a reactive way, and by that I mean those situations where we've had to help assist, where there's been a question about a family wanting further treatment for their loved one, and the doctors are saying it's not clinically indicated, it's not indicated, it's not warranted, it's not in their best interest. Having an argument that has to involve lawyers or the courts is extremely expensive, but it's also extremely difficult to work through emotionally. It's very trying on family relationships. So flipping this on its head with the proactive way that you can get involved and set out what matters to you, what is the treatment that you would want, where would you want that treatment ideally, and what does it look like? Definitely encourage you to have those conversations. And they're not static conversations, it's a process. So if you do have an advanced care plan, then regularly review it. If from time to time you're thinking about reviewing your will, then you should do your advanced care plan perhaps at the same time. So it doesn't have to be static or set in stone. So in my conclusion today, it's really understanding that there is some change coming on the legal horizon, but you don't need to wait for that change to take advantage of planning for your own current and future healthcare needs. And for me as a lawyer, being able to work in this space on a proactive basis is extremely rewarding, and it's good to be able to see so many of you today here who have a clear interest in this, and I'll encourage you to just keep moving through that journey, looking after yourself and others. Great website there that I will encourage you to have a look at. So thank you very much, folks. Thank you.
Thank you to our three speakers, Tammy, Kate and Nick. And now I'm going to invite them all to the stage for questions. And for those online, we will be looking for your questions as well. So have we got a question here? And there are roving mics. And when you speak into the microphone, can you make sure it's close to your face?
Can you hear me now?
Thank you.
Right. I have two questions. My husband and I have just been through the process of reviewing our wills, but also creating power of attorney documents, including an advance directive. And I see that you make reference to an electronic database for advance directives. We were not informed as to whether that advance directive, which is with our powers of attorney and wills, no, it's actually with our wills, is going on to a database or not. What is the status of that?
It does need to be. Is that, no. Oh, is that better?
Just leave the switch up, please. Don't
Yeah,
turn it
no,
off.
I did leave it up, but it didn't activate. A standalone advance directive won't be uploaded. It needs to be in the format of this booklet. Those are the ones that are put into the electronic system. They are kind of quality checked to make sure that they're internally consistent, so that they can actually be followed. So all that wonderful work that you've done is not wasted. Just ask for it to be translated into, you take this document and just do it. It's so easy to do.
You mean just do it yourself online?
Yeah,
okay,
absolutely.
right.
Well, no, you'll fill it out yourself. It needs to be authorized in the same way as your advance directive was probably authorized as well,
By the
in
law.
the sense that you're of sound mind, etc.
Yes.
And that there was no coercion. So those are the validity criteria that need to be, and then your GP practice will make sure that it's uploaded onto the electronic health system, and there's a flag that comes up on your on the electronic system in hospital. So if you came to the ED, they would see that you've got an advanced care plan, rather than it's sort of sitting in a drawer with your will or at the
right. So having it sitting with a will is rather pointless, because presumably the will only comes into action once you're no longer there.
It is, because as we've been talking about today, that actually what's written in your advanced care plan about you can be a really good kind of a catalyst for conversations with your care providers if you were suddenly unwell with, hopefully not with a stroke or a big heart attack or something like that. It just really helps generate a more personal conversation about the things that are important to you. So absolutely, you've done the hard work by creating an advance directive. Get it upgraded into an advanced care plan.
Right. I mean, we've put a rider in our enduring power of attorney for personal care and welfare under number D, I think, which states to be cognizant of our advance directive for healthcare. Now, presumably that means that we have to provide our potential power of attorney with a copy of that in advance. Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. Definitely. And I'll just add briefly to that, because those points from Kate are very well made. It's important that you do help your attorney understand what it is that you would like, because that's a good direction, exactly as you've described, and that's the right way to do it. So in your power of attorney and under the current law, you're saying have regard to my advanced care plan. So you're saying be cognizant of. You can be more directive if you wish. You can be very prescriptive, and we've had drafting of people who are saying that I require in every medical decision made on my behalf that my attorney follows the advanced care plan and advocates on my behalf for that. So you can be very prescriptive around that. So that's very important. But we've had those issues where you've completed the power of attorney, you've completed your will, and they are safely housed in your lawyer's deeds room. And when one of your members of your family gets a call at 3 a.m. and they need to go to the ED, the lawyer's deeds room is the last place you want your advanced care plan to only be. So definitely, exactly as you've said, Kate, and can encourage that. So look, if your lawyer has any questions or queries about that they're wanting to just even ask, they're welcome to contact me. I'd be happy to help them make sure that it gets the right place for you and your husband.
Right, so it needs to shift. The second question relates to time. We hear about the lack of time and personnel in our healthcare system. And eventually, a whole lot of this word care involves medical care. And a lot of people don't know a lot about medicine or care or how that will exercise at a time when they're very vulnerable. What's the potential role of an advocate to say to people when they enter ED or whatever, to say, look, you're going to be asked as to whether you want this, that, or that. And ideally, the specialist or the emergency physician or doctor will explain that to you, but everybody is pressured for time. And explaining, the intricacies of medical care and medicine and treatments to people is a problem in today's health system. Even just getting a hold of a GP to say, look, can you go with me to my advanced care?
I mean, these are wonderful questions and wonderful insights.
Aren't going to be answers.
I think that it reflects the complexities around health at the moment, and the more you can be partners in your healthcare, the better. But that requires advanced thinking about some of this. Some of the difficulties that people have is they literally haven't given it any thought, and therefore it's hard to have these complex conversations when you're sick. Thinking about it when you're well and having some idea of what potentially lies ahead gives you the opportunity to have more meaningful conversations about care, rather than getting the standard issue, as it were, because that is, it does take time. You'll be pleased to hear we're not just talking to you, we're talking to GPs tonight, and we're talking to the hospital tomorrow. We're trying to bring all of those threads together so everyone sees the value in better conversations.
Yes, I think, I guess my question relates to advocacy of matters medical and care and treatment outside of the healthcare team who are pressed for time. For an older person to sit down with someone who may be ex-nurse, ex-doctor, ex-whatever, to ask a question about resuscitation or chronic ambulatory peritoneal dialysis, about which they have no knowledge at all. And this person will say, well, this is as far as I can tell you what this is about, because some of that information
There's a lot of wisdom in the community, a lot of
exactly,
of,
yes. And
yeah.
so the context, the concept of advocacy care might be one worth considering.
And I think this will be something that we have to face as a community, as New Zealand overall, to prioritise what's important in our health system.
Yes.
And I think all of us here would acknowledge that we're going through turbulent times for a whole number of things. And I think it's really important that we have this conversation to prioritise it. So thank you for those questions. And we've got one quick question online. Can ACPs be accessed by emergency service providers, ambulance drivers?
I'll answer that one. So ambulance paramedics in the community can access your electronic ACP if it's been uploaded through your GP through the electronic portal. So yes, we used to advocate that people kept them in a sort of tube in the fridge with a stick on the fridge, but that's no longer necessary. Having it in your bottom drawer, though, isn't helpful. Taking it to your family doctor and saying, I want this uploaded, is super, super important. Keeping a copy for yourself and discussing those contexts, because to answer the first question, it's all well and good giving us an advance directive, but legally we're required to make sure that the advance directive is applicable to the current context. And so knowing a little bit more about you and your context and yourself actually helps us check the validity of those advance directives. So yes, ACPs are visible from paramedics and community providers.
Indeed.
Found today particularly invaluable. I died 12 years ago playing touch sevens with an atrial fibrillation, and I now have my own defibrillator. At the time, I had coffee with my funeral director, and we produced ACPs then. And the only people that I got a copy is in my desk and my wife's cupboard and the funeral director. So what I've learned today is that, we updated our enduring powers of attorney the other day and got 2 documents, 22 pages each, one for us, one for our property. This is probably the legislation that's coming through. So I don't really have a question other than to say how valuable, and the only disappointment I have today is the rest of these seats aren't filled.
I can chip in and say there's a lot of people online.
Oh, right. Sorry, I do apologize.
So that's one good thing about COVID. I didn't enjoy COVID 3 weeks ago, but one of the good things is we've got this technology advancement. So thank you for that comment.
Thank you,
Another
guys.
question from online is, what percentage of our medical practitioners in Aotearoa are aware and are practicing the ACP? Difficult question, I know, but
I think it's a bit location dependent, and it's how much resource has been put into that socializing, educating, and the leadership space. And it's extremely difficult work to get prioritized in the health system, which is agonizing for us who believe in it so passionately, because we know that it could make a huge difference and it would be money absolutely worth spending. We know that Marianne is, as an ACP facilitator here, is half-time. She knows that 2 people's full-time would be kept busy doing the amount of work that needs to be done. And it just seems such a terrible shame that we have to fight for every cent.
I guess,
yeah, it is extremely difficult. I've often thought that every time we put a new initiative in through the health organisation, that we ought to allocate 1% of that funding to the cost of not doing treatments or supporting patients to receive other treatments. So that could be physiotherapy or palliative care or advanced care planning. And if we did that, Kate and I could do these conferences in Rarotonga. It would be. But anyway, I think it does need to be a national conversation when we talk about managing healthcare responsibly in the future. Absolutely, I want to make sure that every person has access to every treatment that's going to help them. But we need to be brave sometimes and talk about when our treatments aren't going to take you above that wellbeing threshold, and therefore when they're not wanted or warranted.
We've just about run out of time, so one quick question here.
How long is the ACP considered current? Like if I had mine uploaded 5 years ago, is it still relevant today? And if I get dementia and can't remember anything about it?
And just to add into that from a question online, how easy is it to change?
Super easy. Super easy to change.
I think your ACP should be something that you regularly review. And the more information you give us in the why, the more confident we can be around that supported decision making. If you just give us a treatment decision in a one point of time, we're not going to know enough about you. And so it's given us that personal sense of who you are as an individual. And that often transcends generations, doesn't it? Transcends decades. You know, beyond our 20s and 30s, when we're maybe a bit more silly, you know, we tend to be very consistent. So give us the why, not the what.
Thank you. And I will pass over to Alex, but I think for those online and those in the room here, thank you very much to our speakers. Thank you.
Tēnā koutou anō, kami atu kia koutou ngā kai kōrero o tēnei rā. Ngā manuhiri kua tai mai ki tēnei ki te tautoko tēnei hui, kei te mei, kei te mei. Ko mutu mātou mahi mō tēnei wā, manaki tia mai mātou katoa o mātou whānau o mātou hoa, ai au ki te aorangi, which is, we finished our talk for today. Let's gather for support for all of us, which is a nice thing that we're doing today anyway. Support for our friends and our family, and isn't the universe awesome? Thanks.